Here's a number that could decide whether you retire 10 years early or run out of money at 82. For 30 years, the entire FIRE movement has been built on one rule. Withdraw 4% of your portfolio every year and you're safe. Save 25 times your annual expenses, hit that number, and you're done working forever. But right now, in 2026, the two most trusted voices in retirement research can't agree on that number anymore. William Bengen, the man who literally invented the 4% rule back in 1994, just raised his own recommendation to 4.7%. Meanwhile, Morningstar, one of the biggest names in investment research, says the real safe number is 3.9%. That's a 20% gap between the two most cited sources in retirement planning. And if you're planning early retirement, that gap isn't just academic. It's the difference between needing $1.25 million and needing over $2 million. So which one is right? And more importantly, what number should you actually be using? Let's break it down. First, a quick refresher for anyone new here. The 4% rule comes from a 1994 study by financial planner William Bengen. He looked at every 30-year retirement starting year going back to 1926, including the 1929 crash and the brutal inflation of the 1970s. He found that if you withdrew 4% of your portfolio in year one, then adjusted that dollar amount for inflation every year after, your money would have lasted the full 30 years in almost every single scenario. The Trinity study in 1998 confirmed it with a formal success rate table, and 4% became the golden rule of retirement. Flip that 4% around, and you get the 25 times rule. Save 25 times your annual expenses, and you're financially independent. Simple, clean, motivating. And for a huge chunk of the FIRE community, that 25 times number has been the entire goal for over a decade. Here's where it gets complicated. In his most recent research, Bengen went back and added small cap and international stocks to the portfolio mix. With that broader diversification, his own updated safe number climbed to 4.7%. That's actually more aggressive than the original rule, not less. But Morningstar ran the numbers the opposite direction. Instead of just looking backward at history, they modeled forward-looking returns based on today's stock valuations and bond yields, and they landed on 3.9% as the safe starting rate for a new retiree in 2026. So you've got one legendary researcher saying you can safely spend more, and one major research firm saying you should spend less. Both are using defensible methods. They're just asking different questions. Bengen is asking, what actually happened across 100 years of market history? Morningstar is asking, given how expensive stocks are right now, what's likely to happen next? And here's the part almost nobody talks about. This entire debate assumes a 30-year retirement. That's fine if you're retiring at 65. But if you're in the FIRE community and you're retiring at 40 or even 35, you're not planning for 30 years. You're planning for 50, maybe 60 years of withdrawals.
And the math changes fast the longer your time horizon gets. Multiple independent research groups have modeled this out, and the pattern is consistent. At a 30-year horizon, 4% holds up with a success rate above 90%. Stretch that to a 50-year horizon, the kind of timeline an actual early retiree is facing, and that same 4% withdrawal rate starts failing in 15 to 20% of historical scenarios. To get back to that same safety margin over 50 years, most of the research converges on a starting withdrawal rate closer to 3 to 3.5%. Let's put real numbers on that, because this is where it actually matters for your plan. If you spend $60,000 a year, here's how your FIRE number changes depending on how long you need that money to last. At the classic 25 times multiplier, you're targeting $1.5 million. If you're retiring at 50 and need a 40-year runway, most research pushes you to around a 28 times multiplier, so closer to $1.7 million. And if you're retiring in your 30s, planning for a 50-plus year retirement, you're looking at 30 to 33 times your expenses, which lands you between $1.8 and $2 million. That's not a small difference. That's an extra $300,000 to $500,000 you might need just because your retirement is longer than the original 1994 study ever tested. Now, before you panic and add a decade to your FIRE timeline, here's the honest takeaway. This isn't really a pick one magic number problem. The smartest move researchers keep pointing to is a dynamic, guardrails-based approach instead of a fixed percentage. The idea is simple. You set an upper and lower guardrail around your withdrawal rate, typically about 20% above or below your starting number. If a market downturn pushes your effective withdrawal rate above that upper guardrail, you trim spending slightly. If your portfolio grows and your withdrawal rate drops below the lower guardrail, you get to spend more. Multiple studies show this flexible approach can support a starting withdrawal rate close to 5% while still holding up over long retirements, because you're adjusting in real time instead of locking in one number for the next 50 years. So here's what I'd actually do if you're serious about FIRE in 2026. Step 1, recalculate your FIRE number using a more conservative multiplier based on your real retirement horizon, not the generic 25 times number. If you're planning a 50-year retirement, multiply your annual expenses by 28 to 33 instead of 25. Step 2, build in a buffer for the first 5 to 10 years of retirement specifically, because a market downturn right when you retire is far more dangerous than one that happens 15 years in. That's called sequence of returns risk, and it's the single biggest threat to early retirees. Step 3, consider a guardrail strategy instead of a fixed withdrawal rate, so you're adjusting your spending based on how your portfolio is actually performing, not a number you picked once and never revisited.
And step 4, honestly the most underrated one. Build at least one flexible income stream you can lean on if markets turn against you early. That could be part-time work, a side project, or rental income. It doesn't need to replace your full salary. It just needs to take pressure off your portfolio during the exact years when that pressure matters most. The 4% rule isn't dead, but treating it like a fixed law instead of a starting point for your own math is exactly the kind of mistake that turns a comfortable retirement into a stressful one. If this helped you rethink your own FIRE number, subscribe, because this channel is going to keep breaking down exactly this kind of research, minus the fluff, so you can build a real plan instead of just chasing a round number you saw on the internet. Drop your target FIRE number in the comments and tell me whether you're using 25 times or something more conservative. I read every comment, and it helps me pick the next topic. See you in the next one.